Hi, and welcome to the 12th House podcast, where we talk about making the unseen seen. I'm Michelle Pelizon, the head witch in charge at Holisticism, and I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome. Hi. In today's episode, I'm talking with my dear friend, Sinikiwe Dhliwayo of Naaya. Naaya roots people of color in their well-being, and wow, what Sinikiwe is building at Naaya is fucking mind-blowing, show-stopping, amazing brilliance. And I just feel so lucky that I get to be friends with her and that I get to count her as a collaborator and contemporary and friend and just someone who consistently inspires me to do bigger things, to create, to dream, to push. Sinikiwe really blows me away like all the time. And I'm so excited that you get to hear from her. We talked for like an hour and a half before this podcast on the phone. And I kind of wish that we'd been recording because we went all over the map. We talked about all the things from business to the wellness space to our personal lives and back again. But in the part of this episode that we actually ended up recording, we talked a lot about entrepreneurship and fundraising. And that's actually kind of how Sinikiwe and I first met and created a relationship together, was by sharing our experiences fundraising and what had worked for us and what hadn't worked and sort of where we were each at. We were at pretty different places on our journey when we first got in connection with each other. I had decided to finish fundraising and not take money from people. And Sinikiwe was at the sort of threshold of trying to decide if she wanted to raise money or if she didn't. We talk about venture capital, we say VC, and we talk about investors in this episode. So if you're not super familiar with what that looks like, I want to give you a really quick rundown so you're not like, what the fuck are they talking about? Typically, when you're a founder of a business or a company, and it's a high growth company, meaning that it looks like a business that's going to be earning millions of dollars in revenue pretty quickly, but it's going to cost a lot of money, a lot of capital to get to that place, meaning you're going to have to invest either really heavily in tech or really heavily in infrastructure like physical spaces, or maybe really, really heavily in marketing and physical products. Then you'll typically look for outside investment. When I first started my business, I didn't even know how people started businesses. I was like, how do people have money to do this? This is crazy. I was, scraping my pennies together to pay for my LLC when I first started Holisticism. And eventually I saw and understood that I could raise money if I made my business something that was venture backable, meaning that it was something that would get returns in the future for its investors. A high growth company, like I said, you're probably really familiar with high growth companies because we're so familiar with tech these days. But some good examples are companies like Away, Glossier, gosh, pretty much anything that you can WeWork. I was going to say pretty much any business that's had some sort of epic struggle over the last year. Airbnb, all of these companies are venture backable, meaning that a venture capitalist firm invested millions of dollars in them with the expectation that they would be making money in the future and that they would get those returns relatively quickly when those companies are either acquired or when they go public. So that is what generally happens when one starts a business. You either take out a bank loan, so you take out some money, you get invested in, quote unquote, by the bank, or you borrow money from your friends and your family, or you bootstrap yourself, which is what Sinikiwe and I have both done, meaning that you take your own money and you reinvest it into your business until eventually your business is revenue positive, meaning that it's making its own capital and it can fund itself. Or you go to outside investors, depending on the type of business that you have set up, the business model, and whether it's a high growth or more of a quote unquote lifestyle business, you'll get venture capital or you'll just get regular investors. So the way that works, so the way that you get investors is typically you'll start with a friends and family round, which means that you'll connect to, all your high net worth friends and family if you are connected to people like that, and you'll ask them for money, typically anything from $100,000 to $500,000 to $1 million. Then after that, that'll usually buy you about a year. Then you'll go and you'll start shopping around your idea to venture capitalists, to investors, or to angel investors. Angel investors are individual investors who usually invest small checks, anything from $25,000 or $10,000 to maybe $250,000. And then venture capitalists, VCs, firms that actually invest in companies at a later stage will invest a lot more money. It depends on the size of the VC and it depends on what they focus on, but they can write you a check for anything from $250,000 to $50 million, depending on how big they are and how far along your idea is. So when it comes to raising money, if you are not a cis white male, ideally one who's dropped out of like Stanford or Harvard and looks a lot like Mark Zuckerberg, if you don't fit that description, then you're considered an underserved or an underestimated founder. So Sinikiwe and I both fall under the umbrella of underestimated founders because I'm a woman and because she's a woman of color. Obviously, I have a lot of privilege being a middle-class white woman, and our experiences raising money and raising capital have been really different. I'm sure for that reason, and also because I have a little bit of an experience in technology, so I was a little bit more connected in that space. Either way, it's really, really, really hard. And it can be really demoralizing to meet with venture capitalists or to meet with investors when you're an underestimated founder. 2% of VC venture capital money goes to female founders. 0.8% of VC money goes to women of color, which is crazy. Of the billions of dollars that get invested every year, the vast majority is going to cis white men. And that is definitely something that needs to change. So Sinikiwe and I talk about fundraising in this episode, and we both obviously at this point in our businesses have bootstrapped ourselves. It's not easy, but it's also in many ways much easier than actually raising money from venture capitalists. And I say that because if you are thinking about starting a business, I just want to remind you that there are so many different ways to do it. There's so many different ways. And yeah, you can definitely raise money. Like that's absolutely a possibility. And you should do it if that excites you and lights you up and you love that, the idea of that, and you know the sort of pitfalls and also the pros, the wins that can come with getting invested by angel investors or venture capitalists or whomever. But if that's not your bag, like, bro, it's fine. It's totally fine. You don't have to raise money in order to have a successful company. You can bootstrap yourself, meaning you can pay for it yourself. You can reach out to your friends and family, and they don't have to be mega wealthy. They can loan you a little bit of capital, right? To get you started. You can take out a bank loan if you want. There are so many different options out there. And I hope that this conversation opens that up for you if you were thinking about starting a business and maybe you have no idea how to do it, or at least that's how I felt when I first got started, that this gives you a little bit of hope. And while I know we definitely talk about how difficult it is, I just want to also remind you that Sinikiwe and I absolutely love the work that we do, like so much that we're the workaholics who are texting each other late at night, like, look at this amazing font I just made, or like, look at this cool thing I'm building. And I won't even say workaholics because that's a bit like putting us down. We just love our jobs and we love what we get to make. And again, I count myself so lucky that Sinikiwe is in my community of entrepreneurs because she pushes me to be better and to think bigger. And I'm really just grateful that someone like her exists. And that's another cool thing. Someone like her exists, period. And also that someone like her exists and I get to be friends with her. I just feel like the luckiest person in the world. And I think that's another cool thing about this new paradigm that we're walking into, right? Instead of being in competition with each other, where we could be vying for the same investors to be investing in our businesses, what we've been able to make is something that's on our own terms. We've been able to make a friendship and business relationship on our own terms. We've each been able to build our own companies on our own terms, and we get to live our lives on our own terms and really invest in our time and energy and capital in what we believe in. And that's really fucking cool to me. So I hope that you enjoy this episode with Sinikiwe. And if you are an entrepreneur, that you walk away inspired. She's so much value and wisdom that she shares in this conversation. And if you're not an entrepreneur, that you learn something or that you see a new world or a new aspect of Naaya or of holisticism that maybe you've never experienced before, that you get to sort of get a peek on the other side. As we say, we're pulling back the curtain and that you get to see the unseen. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Sinikiwe. I'm here with Sinikiwe Dhliwayo, my dear friend, my Scorpio angel queen. And I am so, so excited that she is gracing us on the 12th House podcast. Sinikiwe, welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so excited to be on the 12th house. I mean, I love podcasts, but I also just love your brain. So I'm just stoked. So thank you for asking me.
I love your brain back. Our text threads / IG messages are like rapid fire shit talking / business ideas like all day. And then we both are water signs. So then there's like a healthy dose of hot fifis, just like a lot of feelings.
So many feelings. Oh my God. So many feelings. But I love
it. But I buried the lead. Sinikiwe is the founder of Naaya. And Sinikiwe, what's your sort of like elevator pitch, for lack of a better term, about Naaya and your role there?
So what I like to tell people is that Naaya is rooting Black, Indigenous, and people of color and their well-being, with the idea that as Black, Indigenous, and people of color, what it looks like for us to be well is very different than what it looks like for white people to be well, especially given now that we are in this moment of a real reckoning with all of the police brutality that is happening to Black people. In June, as we saw lots of white folks really reckoning with the fact that they are racist and complicit in systems that uphold white supremacy and racism. So given all of that context, what it really takes for us to be well just looks a lot different. And also considering that practices like yoga and meditation, which I have a real affinity for, are practices that come from lineages that have roots in Indian culture and also African culture. And yet in the West where I live, because I reside in the North America, they have been commoditized to the point where you don't even see people of color teaching these practices. Not that we don't exist and that we don't teach them. It's just that the mainstream really tells you that in order to be well, that you have to be affluent, white, and generally of able-bodied or skinny-bodied, right? So that's kind of the big summation. But then as a person, I mean, I am someone that just loves to visually. I spent 10 years working in the media industry, and part of why I started Naaya too was also visually to change what it looks like to be well and to include different body types, different skin, racial identity, so to speak. And then, I think I just would say that I'm someone with lots of ideas and trying to figure out how those ideas can be in service of people that look like me.
Yeah. And like you do all of that and like 1,000 other things. You're one of the most creative and just like multi-talented people I think I've ever met. And I've ever gotten the pleasure of meeting, for sure. And like, I feel so lucky to call you a friend and someone who I just admire everything that you do, like from the way that you think about how the lettering on a sweatshirt should look to how you think about the experience that someone's going to have on a virtual retreat that you hold. You're so thoughtful. Even like you're one of those really thoughtful people that will like send flowers to someone when they're having a bad day, where I feel like that's just not what people do these days. And you just go above and beyond in every single thing that you do. And I just want to say I see you, and it's so impressive. But something that I love about you is that you are obsessed with aesthetics and like the fonts and the colors and like how the layout looks on a page. Let's talk a little bit about that, because we send fonts like back and forth to each other like freaking obsessed people. Like, where did that come from?
So when was it? I would say like middle school-ish. So it's weird because my dad is a scientist, but I have no affinity for math or science. Like I'm not
Sorry, Dad.
I'm not a COVID denier. COVID is real. Science is real. But in terms of like what my brain has capacity for, like I was never good at algebra or chemistry or whatever. Like my brain just doesn't have a capacity for that type of learning, but anything creative. So like home ec, like sewing and shit. Like I love that shit. So yeah, probably around like middle school, I would say is when I got really interested in photography. And then in high school, I was on the yearbook team, and I actually, speaking of fonts, I actually initially wanted to become a graphic designer, but my high school art teacher wasn't the most supportive, and she basically was like, you can't draw, so like I wouldn't recommend that you, like, you know, in college you have to, especially art, going to art school,
Right.
you have to create a portfolio. And so she was like, I don't think you're going to be successful because you can't draw trying to go for graphic design. So like I would steer you away from that. And I was like, one, gutted because I was in fucking high school. So sad.
Right.
But then two, I always had loved photography, and I was on the yearbook staff for 4 years in high school. And so my original plan was to go into like a photography program and then transfer out like a year into it, like take the classes that I would need to transfer into graphic design and then transfer out of photography. And it actually didn't end up working out that way. Like I just stuck with the photography program that I was in. I went to RIT, which is a giant nerd school. And then I also in tandem like studied marketing as well, just partially, I mean, honestly, to like appease my parents so they didn't feel like I was wasting my degree.
I get that.
But also like, yeah, I think it's been interesting too, just having spent so long working in magazines, right? So even though my role working in magazines was largely like looking at photography and how photography was telling the story, I was also working with graphic designers and seeing how they were laying things out and like putting things on the page in order to really tell like a complete story through the pages of a magazine, and then later on like digitally, like on a screen. So I think it's always really been of interest to me. And I think in this time, or in this like 8 months, however long this quarantine has been,
100 years. It's been 100 years long.
I think I have just gotten, yeah, I think I've also just kind of gotten rid of some of that fear that existed before, right? That told me like, you're not a trained graphic designer, so this isn't something that you should be doing. Whereas now I kind of view it as like, even though I'm not a trained graphic designer, like I know enough that I can kind of make things work to how I want them to be, and also really just working with designers that I trust, and then working with them together to kind of execute on the final vision. Yeah, I think a lot of it just is fear, right? Of telling myself like, this isn't something that you're trained in, so like you can't do it. But the more that I spend time looking at fonts or looking at design via social media or websites and things like that, I think it just kind of gives me more confidence as well to kind of add into the skills that I already have as a visual storyteller, like through photography and through video. Yeah. Did I answer?
That was a great answer. That was great. I'm always like, oh, I can't wait to see what font Sinikiwe sends me next, or like what design she's working on right now. I love it. It's so fun. And I feel like that's like the really fun part of having, well, that's a part that I love of like having my own business, is that like I get to make those really fun decisions around how it feels, because that's really what design is to me. It's like evoking a feeling that I can't always express like through the words that I use or however else I'm trying to communicate.
Yeah. And I mean, I think now more than ever, right? It's like we're less and less with each other in person. So I think the first kind of entry point into a lot of projects that people have, especially in a virtual space, is like, how do I feel by looking at this imagery? How do I feel by like looking at this design? And even if they might not be able to articulate it, they can sense it, right? You know, like when you see something on your social media feed that's like very brightly colored, you're like, oh, I should like look at this, right? You have that feeling, right? So yeah, I think figuring out now, especially how to express myself and Naaya or whatever I'm working on in a language that is visual and graphic, I think has become more important. And it's so funny because I was just my personal, it's so interesting, like my personal website is like real sad. Like the meat,
I don't even have a personal website. That's
the meat,
same.
the meat,
Like that's
the
how bad
meat
it
is there. Like the meat is there. The goods are there. You can see that I'm creative. You can see like what I'm about. But like in terms of like the package, like it's not cute. So I finally like reached out to this woman that I do a lot of work with. She does a lot of web design for me. Her name is Rady and she's amazing. And I reached out and I was like, okay, it's time. The personal website, like
I need a digital
it needs a
makeover. I
makeover.
need
It needs to
it.
be cute. Because, like, again, it's like, it just doesn't really, like, you look at everything else and Naaya especially, right? And then you, like, go to my personal website. It's like, what happened? What happened here?
Yeah, like it's kind of like at a certain point, you're like, I should just have like a Times New Roman link in the middle of the page. It's like my work, you know, like just like the most simple, because all of my energy is in my business website. Like I almost even shouldn't try. It should be like one or the other, right?
That's it. I mean, but I am excited. She came back. She sent me like some designs and stuff like that. And it is real cute. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, okay.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
I'm not gonna lie, like I don't know how often I'm gonna update it, but like at least it'll look cute. It'll look cute.
It'll be a really cute parking space on the internet. That's fine. Yeah. Is it hard to like discern, because I know so much of like Naaya's style is also, you're like, oh, I just love that. Like, is it hard to make your own brand like separate from Naaya, because Naaya is so your taste?
Yeah, that's been like another interesting thing. And it's funny, like we a little bit were talking before about Man Repeller. And like I think for me personally, like RIP, the thought around like you as a person and like what you're injecting into your company or your brand, right? And so speaking specifically to Man Repeller, right? Like Man Repeller was built on the founder Leandra's personality, right? Like it
100%.
it was her. It didn't really exist outside of her, despite trying to like separate, right? And so for me, especially with Naaya, it's always been like, even in early days, I was like, okay, this isn't about me though, right? And so even the growth of like, I am someone who definitely like meditation, yoga, yes, those things work for me. But even realizing like, okay, those things don't necessarily work for everyone. So having like a well-being company, right? Like it can't just be what works for my well-being, because what works for my well-being doesn't work for everyone else's. So even having that awareness to be like, oh, like this actually, like, yes, my taste obviously informs like the visual identity and all the things with Naaya. And also like I am serving other people. Like this isn't just about me. So like I have to also go beyond that. And then this idea of like having like a personal brand and like whatever. And like I think even with my personal website, like I was very not hesitant, but even to kind of redo it in a way that like is a separate kind of identity, right? And saying like, this is Sinikiwe, because at the end of the day, like I'm a human being, like I'm not a brand. So even in that, it was like, okay, like I visually, like I know this needs to look different so that folks can get a taste of what I'm capable of, right? Because as it is now, like you can tell that I'm good at what I do, but it's also just like, oh, but this is not cute, girl. Like that kind of vibe. And so, but like grappling with the fact that like I'm not trying to be a brand. Like at the end of the day,
you're not like curating your life. You're showing what is up for you. You're not like caring if it's in the right color scheme to like live in your feed, which I'm of two minds about it. I mean, like, should we just like go after this idea? Should we just like
let's
take
do
the
it.
knives out?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to talk about fundraising and funding and businesses, because Sinikiwe and I both have bootstrap businesses and we've both been through the fundraise process, and like our businesses still exist. But we'll talk about that later. But one big element of like fundraising right now is founders having their own personal brand and like investing heavily in like being a brand and
a personality, basically, an influencer in and of like running a business. And I think that that's absolutely insane. Like, I think that is sociopathic on some level.
Honestly,
like,
I don't know. I personally think it's like kind of bullshit, right? Because it's like, I don't
yes.
like here's what I always like, and I always am having this conversation with my one friend Penda, who shout out to Penda as well.
Penda is the best. Penda and I went to college together.
But her and I always have this conversation. Like, I personally, like, yes, I love a cute fit. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love skincare. Like, all of this shit is
and by the way, your cheekbones look amazing. Like, your cheekbones could cut glass right now. They're like popping. And Sinikiwe also has the best skincare Rex, just like FYI. She got me onto Supergroup. The SPF. She's an influencer.
Obsessed, but like, and also, like, I would say those are facets of my like personality and things that I love, right? But
yeah,
that is not my message, right? My message is around like social justice and anti-racism, anti-blackness. Like, that is my message, right? So those are two very different buckets. And I think that in the world that we kind of exist within in this moment, like, I don't want to be posting cute photos of like outfits on my page. Like, if I'm posting a photo, it's because the caption or whatever, there's a deeper message. Or like, even to the point where I did this paid sponsorship, which I had so many feelings about around voting, right? And for me, I'm like, okay, yes, as like a civically engaged person, I think it is very key to vote, of course. And also, are the candidates that we have now, are they a choice?
Right.
No, right? But it's like
we didn't opt into a two-party system, by the way. This is like not my choice, but
and also, is voting something that we need to do, right? So it's like that nuanced conversation that I feel like doesn't often exist in the box of Instagram or social media, right? And so for me, it's like, I don't take for granted, Michelle, you are beautiful, I am beautiful, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, what I look like has nothing to do with what I'm trying to accomplish and the folks that I'm trying to be in service of, right? And so I think
100p.
I think that like idea of like influencer or whatever puts you just into that mold of being like, I'm cute girl, I post cute outfit pics, I like talk about skincare, which there's nothing wrong if that is what you do and that is your avenue. But for me, like, that's not my jam. And like, I'll speak to the fact that like I spent 10 years, right, effectively being behind the scenes as a producer and like not being in front of the camera, all of this stuff, right? And then to suddenly have to get out of that in order to build Naaya in the way that I want to build it, right? People want to see like who is behind the brand, who, all of that shit. And it's like, for me, like initially, like my Instagram was private. Like, I was like, I don't need anyone to like,
I don't want you snooping
literally.
on me. Like,
and
no.
then I was like, oh shit, like people like want to know who I am. They like, that is important to like building this company. So I guess I need to have it be more open and available to folks, right? But it is that dance of like, I am not a commodity, right? Like, I think when you label yourself so often as like an influencer or brand, you are essentially saying that you can be bought and sold. And I am not something that can be bought.
Whoa. Tweet that, you guys. That is right.
That's it.
That's like some truth right there.
I'm not a commodity to be bought and sold. And I think especially in this moment as a Black woman, and just realizing in June when my inbox was flooded by all of these brands who were like, we want to work with you and like be in relationship, however performative it was, like that's what people were seeing. They were seeing me as a commodity to be like, oh, we can reach out to Sinikiwe, we can pay her, like throw her some crumbs in terms of like a small fee. And then because we're now, it looks like we're in relationship, it is raising our profile. And that's just like not how I operate. I'm just like, no, like I'm a full,
you're like, you go full Scorpio. You're like, no, that I do not have time for that. I love that about you, by the way.
It's just, and I think, and also just to bring it to another point, it's just like, I think so often when people say like Black Lives Matter and they're like the rally cry for that we've seen, it really takes out of it the equation that like I am Black and I am also a human. So that means that sometimes like I'm going to be sad and I am going to be angry because of all of the bullshit and injustice that I face in my day-to-day life. And also like I'm going to be joyous. And like that is something that I've really seen online, where there is that cognitive dissonance when I am sharing things and I am educating people. People are very engaged and like they're all about it. But then as soon as I step away from that to share like a dumb like dance video or whatever, and y'all, I'm not doing like TikTok challenges. I'm literally just like,
no, you share the
dancing
most beautiful,
in
you
my
also share
room.
beautiful dance videos, but yes. And you dancing is adorable, but yeah, sharing Black joy and people like unfollow you.
It's
right?
what literally people just unfollow me whenever I share anything that's happy. I'm just like, wait, what the fuck? What in the actual fuck? Like y'all,
it's so fucked up.
it's crazy. It's wild.
It's okay. You just brought up so many good points. I'm like, we have to have 100 podcast episodes because I want to talk about so much. But one thing is like with creating a brand, right? Around anything, whether it's a person or a movement, like effectively it gets watered down to like 3 things, right? Where you're like, I'm known for these 3 things and like this is what I am, whether it's like skincare, being a mom, and like being a girl boss, or like something else, right? We can all think of like maybe movements or brands that we know where you can define it in 3 or less terms. And it takes out all this like beautiful multidimensionality of like what brings people to life in 5D. And it's just like this hologram version of who we really are on the internet. And like, that's a shame. And that's kind of what you have to do to become a brand. And like, I don't know. I think both of us, like I'm interested in so much more than just well-being. I'm interested in like a jillion different things that don't make sense together all the time. They're not like a cute, cohesive brand. And so how could I possibly share of myself vulnerably, if that's like what we want to do on the internet, or just share of myself fully and be quote unquote branded, you know? Also, I feel like there maybe are like 2 different types of founder personalities. And I feel like you and I are similar in this way of like, we want to be behind the scenes because we have this idea. We wanted to start a company because we didn't want to be influencers, right? Or like, and like, not that there's anything more virtuous in that than something else. But when you start a business, it's like often what happens is like you're behind the scenes and you're just doing the work. And it's going to create change in that way. Like the business goes beyond you, or the company you're building has a greater impact than you personally do. And that's okay. Versus, I think there are a lot of people that are creating things or founding things that really do want to be at the center of them. And there's nothing wrong with that, but they're really different approaches to running a business. And I think that this kind of ties in with funding. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really about getting clear, right? On like what is the purpose or what is the intention of what you're building. And like for me, as someone who is like team Gen Z, hashtag Gen Z forever, like a lot of
where Gen Z stands over here, like we worship at the ground of Gen Z.
Right. And so I am literally constantly being like, how is the work and what I am building? How is that in service of the folks that are coming up behind me? Right? How do I bring them up? And like, yes, I have an audience of work where a lot of what I do is for grown folks, as I like to call it, right? And also my passion is working with young people, right? So it's like, how do I work with adults or people who maybe have money and resources that are different from young people, and also utilize that to then in turn like help young people, right? And neither of those things actually has to do with me, right? Like even the way that I view like how I teach, right? It's like I am not out here claiming that I am like a healer or any of that, which I personally think is just a very false narrative. Like me teaching you yoga or me teaching you meditation might be a catalyst, right? For you to get to healing that you need to do as a person, right? but I am
Yeah.
not Sinikiwe, and I'm not physically like, this meditation is going to heal you, right?
Right. You're leading people to become their own healer. Like you're empowering them to be their own healer.
Right. And that's very two different things, right? Especially in wellness.
Totally.
Like there are people that claim themselves to be healers, and I am not the one. Like that's just not me. And again, it's fine if that's you and like that is how you feel. But at the end of the day, like there is nothing. And I'll give like a personal anecdote. Like there was a time before I went to therapy where I was just like reading all these self-help books, and I really just felt like I could just like self-help my way into like whatever that next level of.
Are we the same person?
I think so. And then it got to the point where I was just like, oh shit, like I actually need professional help for this. Like I can't just
like someone please help me.
Literally. And yeah, and I think that that's where, I don't know, I just like really feel that there's like a lot of disconnect there. Like I don't think that even going to a therapist, right? Like I think a therapist gives you tools for you to do the work on yourself, right? They're guiding you, yes, in a specific way so that you can get to that inner healing or whatever you need. But they're also not just like waving a magic wand and being like, okay, you're healed now, right? So I think it is very important to kind of just get clear on that. It's like, okay, do you want to be like front and center? Is that what you want out of the business you're building? That's great. Then maybe you should have a podcast, or maybe you should, seek opportunities that are really going to put you in the spotlight, right? And that's a totally different business than trying to like be in service to other people so that they can seek out whatever healing or well-being that they're looking for, right? Those are like two very different buckets of things. And I think it's just important, like when you get into something, it's like figuring out which one of those buckets you're trying to fall into, right?
Totally. And like, it's not like one's better than the other. They're different pathways to different potential outcomes. And like, I feel like this is such a good segue into fundraising, because when we met, I can't remember if I was still fundraising. I think I actually wasn't. I had decided that I didn't want to anymore, and that I'd bootstrapped Holisticism. But we started talking about like the fundraising journey. And like I've seen both of us, our perspectives have shifted so much in the last few years around starting a business and getting the money to do so. And before we talked for like an hour before this, we were just talking about the proliferation of crowdfunding campaigns, or how many maybe brand new founders are going out to raise money from investors. And it's way more complex, and there's a lot more to it than I think like people realize getting into it.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing is like, especially in this moment, right? And I hate to like say it like this, but like in a lot of ways, like what happened in June and with protesting and all of this stuff, Black people in a way have kind of become this like trend, right? Which in many ways is like very, very fucked up. But when you look at it from the perspective of these largely white founded venture capital funds and all of this now being like, oh, we actually, and to take it back one step, like there's a term that is blanket that's underserved, right? And women fall into this category. Black female founders fall into this category. LGBTQ plus folks fall into this category.
Underserved or underestimated founders is what they call them.
And VC. So it's just like a blanket term that encompasses essentially.
And VC means venture capital, for anyone who's not familiar. Sorry, we got the lingo.
That covers like anyone who isn't like a white male, right? So there's this blanket term. Then you add on top of it all that is like happening in the world, and suddenly people are like, oh, we need to like make an effort, in quotation, to get money to these underserved folks, right? And again, it's twofold, right? Because underserved could mean like you're a woman, or underserved can mean you're a woman and you're Black and you're queer, right? There's like many layers to it. But I think the thing that has come back to me like time and time again is like, one, what are you actually raising money for? right? Because
Yeah.
we know that there's no such thing as like easy money, right? So once you take on money from either VC or maybe crowdfunding or whatever the platform may be, you are then beholden to someone who's going to be asking you what you are doing with that money, right? And so
Exactly.
I think, at least for me, like part of why I started a business was one, because I was just in spaces where I didn't have a voice, right? And I wasn't able to make any type of change that I wanted to make. And so part of me starting a business was to be like, okay, I want to be able to really service people in a way that I think is going to be beneficial to them. And so when you start this business and you're going out to raise all of this money, and people are going to be asking you what you're doing with this money, right? Especially if they're giving you a lot of
yeah,
money.
especially at VC. Like you have to, I think that there's this like maybe myth when you first get started that you're just like, oh, I'm going to raise money. People are just going to give me money because I'm smart and like I have good ideas. If you're not a white man, that's not true. Like maybe white men can get away with like being good looking and being whatever, charismatic and having good ideas and just getting a shit ton of money. But like you have to go in with a really clear plan. When I was pitching, I had to like say how I was going to allocate the funds, every single penny of the funds for people to even like have a meeting with me. It's not like, oh, I'll just start a business and someone will give me $100,000 and I'll figure it out. That's not really how it works.
But also, I think what people also don't realize is like, especially, and I'll speak for myself as a Black woman, like the levels of fucking scrutiny. So like, I always come back to this when Lena Dunham was writing Girls and the pitch that she needed to do for Girls. I think she like went in and it was just like an idea on a napkin or something like that. Like just a very rough.
That's insane.
Idea. And I'm just like, wait, what?
The level of privilege, my God.
And I'm just like, I could literally never, as a Black woman, like the level of scrutiny of like what my idea is, how it's making money, how it's going to be a return on investment for an investor. Like the levels of fucking scrutiny is like out of fucking control. So what I will say, like if you are someone who is new to starting a business and maybe you have a really great idea, if it's something where you can make it so that the money that you're making is like self-generating, right? Like you're creating revenue with your idea at the onset by yourself without taking on initial money. Do that, one.
Run with it.
Two,
yeah.
It also, I think what people don't realize is like there's also an evolution of an idea. And even as someone who is fucking has a plethora of ideas, like just because I have an idea doesn't mean it's good, right? And sometimes it's
oh yeah, okay, yes, let's talk about that. We both have too many ideas and like too many ideas going on in the brains. And how do you like discern for yourself between a crazy idea that you're just like, oh yeah, this is genius, and like an actually good idea that you should follow? Do you have a process? Because I have a process.
I mean, I would love to know your process, but I think for me, it has just really been, and given this like pandemic time or just like I left magazines in February because it was no longer a good environment for my mental health. And so
yeah, it was toxic and abusive.
So toxic.
I'll say it.
But like, given that I am no longer beholden to like a 9 to 5, right, in the typical way, I think a lot of my urgency really came around feeling like, okay, well, I only have like certain times of the day when I can work on Naaya or think about Naaya just from like a capacity standpoint. Whereas now it's like, oh, like I don't have to necessarily rush into that idea, right? That like me putting it out a month from now or me putting it out right now, the only change is that I have more time to actually make it into a stronger idea. right? And
Yeah.
one very good example of that is this initiative called the Check-In. So the Check-In really started with
That you're doing at Naaya.
yeah, that I'm doing at Naaya. So it really started from this idea of thinking about young people who don't have financial access, and also just the setup of schools in New York. New York City schools are still very segregated, despite New York being a quote unquote diverse city. And so thinking of all of these students who are now suddenly having to learn at home because of the pandemic, and maybe not having tech resources to do that, right? So
right, like computers and Wi-Fi and all the things.
fucking all the things. And so thinking about how I can really help in that way. And so the first solution was to donate computers. So I did that. I was able to donate 50 computers, and then building on that, being like, okay, and also they are still, in addition to distance learning, Black students especially are being bombarded on a regular basis with people that look like them that are dying because of police brutality. So how can I now support them with mental health resources? And so initially that looked like, you know, offering free yoga and meditation, and then access to therapy, but within the setting of like working with schools and having access to their students and going that route. And then that progressed into actually fuck the schools, because there's bureaucracy and racism that comes along with that.
Yeah,
right?
It takes forever to get through. Like, oh my God, public schools are a nightmare to try and push policy change through, or like
the literal worst.
It's a nightmare.
So it was like, okay,
it's horrible.
So then I had to progress from that, because I was like, okay, this isn't actually going to get folks the resources.
It's not the environment that's viable for the change that you want to build.
100%. So then I had to, you know, pivot, even though that word is so overused, but pivot from that thought, right? So just, I feel like there's so often that there has to be levels and progression to an idea. And because people feel the sense of urgency to like, I have it, and so I have to do it. And trust me, like, I would love to just be like, cranking things out at like a rapid pace, but like sometimes in order to, you know, get the best outcome, you need to give it time. Like you can't rush things. And I think that is something that I really want to impress upon folks who are like looking to start a business or have a great idea. It's just like, take your time.
Yeah, dude, like let it brew, you know, like let it percolate and just kind of like let it age like a fine wine. Because if it's a genuinely, I feel like we're the same because we're both projectors as well. We have a lot in common, you guys. This is why we're friends. Same. Like I need to sit on an idea for a really long time, because if I just go with like my gut, a lot of the time that's anxiety talking, that's fear talking, that's ego talking. And when I like get into a place of urgency, that's also like a value of white supremacy, especially in the workplace. And so if I can like luxury a little bit longer in something, then I feel like it always comes out better. But I also recognize like that a lot of people are moving fast because they're like, I don't have money. You know, like I need to bring this thing into reality because like this is my job now. And balancing those two things at the same time, right? Like we don't necessarily have all the time in the world. Eventually we have to ship our product, right? Or like we need to bring our product into the world, or we need to publish the book, or we need to like publish the podcast, or we need to like actually go pitch the idea. And that is, I think like that's a process that you just are fine tuning as you make more things, as you are like a business owner or a founder.
Totally.
For anyone who's listening to this, who's thinking about fundraising and wants to start a business, but doesn't know where to start, get a viable business first. Like see if you can actually generate money first, and try to bootstrap as long as you possibly can until you have something that you really are excited about, and that you have like data and information to back up your beliefs. Because if you're looking for investors, whether they're VC or angel investors or friends and family, I don't know anyone who's raised a friends and family round, but you know, if that is in your purview,
God
the
bless.
more data you have, yeah, right, must be cool. The more data you have, like the more likely people are they're not going to be able to say no to you. If you're like, this idea works. So give them reason to say yes, I would say. That would be my piece of advice.
I would also say, like, why? Like, why?
Yes.
Why?
That one. That though.
Literally, why are you starting this business? Because again, it's like not, and I'm just like, say it very frankly,
Say it.
not everyone needs to have a business. Like,
yes.
and I think that is part of also just, I don't know if it's social media or what it is, but there's just this notion that like you should just start a business. Like, not everyone needs to start a business, and that is totally okay. Like, maybe you need to just find a work environment that is more conducive to you being successful, right? Than just starting your own thing. Because here's the thing, like, I would say 75% of what I do is like not fun. Right? Like, there, literally, there's like so much shit. Like, when I'm up at like midnight, like doing edits on the website, because yes, y'all, like I had someone design the website, but I update it. I don't have someone that does that for me.
Same.
Right?
Who do you think sends out the emails? Yeah, like it's
me.
Yeah.
Like, so like I think that is also a consideration. Like, I think people make entrepreneurship look very glamorous, and like there are things obviously that I am very grateful for that I get to do with being an entrepreneur. And also there's a lot of shit that I don't like. But because I don't have the financial resources to have a team of like 5 or 6 people, who's doing it? Your girl is doing it. Like, I can't outsource things, right? So like, I think that is another very important consideration. It's like, why?
And yeah, exactly. Are you doing it for external validation, or are you doing it because you can't help but do it? I heard a really good quote from Seth Godin today where he said, you know, the question shouldn't be like, what would you do if you couldn't fail? It should be, what would you do if you would still do if you knew you were going to fail? Like, if you knew it wasn't going to work. And I feel like for both of us, like, I'd still be doing this shit. Like, if no one was listening, like, I would still probably make this. If no one was opening my emails, I'd still like love doing it. And you got to have like deep love in your heart for the actual work, I think, because that's what you got at the end of the day.
I would say another one is like, there's no such thing as easy money.
Everything comes with strings, my dudes. There's no such thing as free lunch.
None.
Right?
There's none. And especially if you are someone who doesn't maintain white identity, right? So Black, anyone who isn't white, right? Especially if you are going into a situation where you're asking someone to write you a check for even a moderate amount of money, right? Even like $10,000 on up, know that there's going to be a lot of strings attached with that money. So really asking yourself, like, am I giving up a piece of myself? Like, am I giving up like some of my values, my own integrity by taking this money? And if I am going to do that, is it worth it?
Right. And what am I okay with like settling for? Like, or, you know, doling a part of myself for a part of like where everyone has a price, right? Like, there's the archetype. We all contain an archetype of like the hustler, which basically means like we can all be bought for a price. Now, your price for Naaya might be like $100 million, right? But like, we all have a price, and you got to know like, okay, what's integrity for me? What's in integrity for me? And what am I willing to like sacrifice in order to be financially secure from someone else's capital? There also are like all the strings of other people's emotions that you take into consideration when you are dealing with their money. So like, I could never do that because I have too many emotions inside my own brain. Like, I can barely deal with my emotions. But you're so right on. And so, I mean, Sinikiwe, would you ever raise money, or are you like bootstrapped all the way?
I
Ride
mean,
or die.
it really depends. Like, it really,
You're like, there could be. I mean, I could be convinced.
I mean, I really feel like there would have to be, like, the contract would have to really be a serious contract there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And again, I think for me, it's that constant, like, reassessing of, like, what am I willing to give up? Right. Because especially if it's a company that is only now realizing that it's important to invest in Black business, right? It's like, what amount of dealing with their anti-Blackness or racism, right? What amount of that am I willing to deal with in order to propel my business forward in the way that I want to, right? Because also it's a negotiation, right? There are things that I am unable to do because I don't have the manpower, right? And that I can't gain that manpower or bringing on a team because I want to pay people and I want to pay them what they deserve. And so because of that, I have to do stuff myself. Whereas maybe if I had more financial resources, you know, so it's that dance.
There's always a sacrifice. What is that phrase? Like, I feel like I heard it a lot in making content that you got to pick two. You can either get it fast, cheap, or done beautifully, or like done really well, but you can't have all three. You have to pick two. So you can get it done fast and cheap, and it might not be so good. You can get it done like fast and beautiful, and it's going to be expensive. But the adage is to the point of like, there's always going to be something that gets pushed off the plate, right? Because there's only room for so many things. So you're going to have to make like you're going to have to kill your darlings in some ways. If you're making a choice to like take on investors or something else, then that means that something's got to go. And the choice that you're making right now to not take on investors means that you have less freedom in terms of scalability sometimes because there's just not the capital there to do so. But I feel like we probably scared everyone off from raising money. And I would say, or starting a business. And I would say that like, that's not the point. You totally should. You should start a business if you want to. Just ask these questions first or don't. And like, you'll learn the hard way, maybe the way that we did. But I think it's also really daunting when you first start a business because you're like, how the fuck did people have money? Like, how do people start businesses? Like, how do they get money to do anything? Like, at least that's how I felt. And it's more possible than you think. You don't need to have $100,000 or even $50,000 in the bank to get started. You can just start step by step and like do what's right in front of you and start with the most simple action. And, you know, it doesn't have to happen overnight for you. It can happen over time. And that's sometimes how the best things start.
But I also will add to that, I think it's that time piece that people don't necessarily want to give things. I think that, you know, we live in an Amazon age of instant gratification.
Yes, instant gratification.
Where things just like, you just decide it and then it happens and it's done. And like, you know, people even look at me and they've looked what I've built in like 2 years. And I'm like, yeah, y'all see the 2 years, but you don't see like the 10 where I did.
I was going to say plus 30, like your entire life has been building up to this. Like all of your training has built up to
literally this. All the things, all of the, y'all didn't see the 7 unpaid internships I did in New York City. Like you guys don't see those things. And like, I am grateful for all of those things that I went through and those experiences that I had that enabled me to get to the point where I am. But like that shit was not overnight. There was no instant gratification there.
It wasn't an overnight glow up, my dudes. It was, might have looked like it, but it was not that.
Definitely not that. And so that's the other thing that I will add. It's just like, it's not going to be tomorrow, my guy.
Ooh, that's very wise words. Yeah. God, you're so smart. I love your brain so much. Okay. So we have to wrap because we're a little bit over time. But I want to end with your favorite of the moment, unpopular opinion, because I know that you got some unpopular opinions or hot takes.
I mean, my favorite hot take is that this idea of decolonizing wellness, you can't decolonize wellness because wellness, especially in the West, is centered on white supremacy, right? And this idea that in order to be well, you have to be white, affluent, and able-bodied, right? So you can't decolonize that thought. You can make it so that you're not centering whiteness, right? If you are someone who inhabits a white body, that you are actively addressing your own anti-Blackness and your own anti-racism, but that's not the same thing as decolonizing wellness.
I love that hot take. You're so smart. Ugh, everyone hires Sinikiwe to do anything that she wants to do. If you are graced by her presence, you should just be like, how can I hire you? Because she's incredible. This was so fun. I wish we had 100 more hours, but sadly we have to wrap. Sinikiwe, how can people find you and Naaya?
I would say find us on the website, Naaya Wellness, NAA wellness.com, because we're really taking a hiatus from Instagram. And also sign up for our newsletter, because that's where it's gonna be at. Like, the last thing I will say is just, yeah, it's been really interesting to build up this like following, in quotation, on social media, right? And seeing actually who's really engaging with what's happening. And also, as someone who has worked in media, and this idea of like owning your content, right? And so also I have really taken a step back from just putting out so much free stuff on social media that people can access, because it's also like, it's free to you to access, and access and affordability is very important to me. And also it's coming at a cost for me as someone who believes in paying people, especially contributors, right? So I might still be paying a contributor, but you are accessing the material for free. So what does that mean for me as someone who's also trying
and
to
you make content professionally,
right?
Like, you get paid to make content,
right? So like,
and you should get paid to make content.
yeah. So all the things. Yeah.
There's that. There's the algorithm, which, again, story for another day, but I feel like was our first bonding experience. And yeah, God, there's a lot of reasons to potentially divest from Instagram and Mark Zuckerberg and invest in your own platforms like your email list. So find Sinikiwe and Naaya and subscribe to their emails, which are beautiful and so thoughtful. And one of my favorite parts of my week is when Sinikiwe jumps into my inbox. But this was so fun. Thank you for doing this with me. I love you so much.
I love you so much. Thank you.
You're my favorite Scorpio human. And Naaya is so important. And the work that you're doing, we need it to infinity and beyond. So I'm excited for everyone to go follow you and keep tabs on what you're up to. And like, you are such a superstar. I love you.
I love you. Thank you. Thanks, y'all.
Peace. Bye.
Bye.
And that's our episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're amazing. Thank you for listening to the 12th House, for subscribing, for rating and reviewing. It means so, so, so much to us. And it helps us get discovered by other amazing people. So we really appreciate you sharing the love. If you take a screenshot of this episode and tag us on Instagram at Holisticism, then I'll send you a little gift. And if you shoot me a text with a screen grab of your review, I will send you something even more special. So lots of, hopefully, ethical bribing when you share the podcast and when you do us a solid and give us a review. We really, really appreciate it. So excited for next week's episode. If you've ever wondered what it's like to be psychic and run a business, well, oh man, have I got an episode for you. I'm talking to Asia Deshore of the Spirit Guide Coach and Spirit House Collective here in LA. And it is such a good episode. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that episode drops. If you have any questions, just shoot me a note, Michelle at oholisticism.com, and I will talk to you next week.